Welcome to the Scared So What podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Van Ulbrich. This is the show where we break through the fear of change and ask the question, scared? So what? Each week we dive into personal change management, coaching, and leadership for the future, giving you real-world tools, insights, and stories to help you lead yourself and others through transformation. Whether you're navigating change in your life, your career, or your organization, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to take bold action. So, are you ready? Let's move from fear to forward. Welcome to the Scared So What podcast show. Today we're honored to have a very special guest with us that has a saying. Have you ever noticed how everything looks great on paper until people get involved? It makes you think, doesn't it? Today's guest has spent decades helping leaders around the world figure out what's getting in the way of their teams and their own lives. Then he helps them do something real about it. As a consultant, a coach, an author, and a speaker, he blends business best practices with psychological truths to drive high-performance execution that's both healthy and sustainable. Let's say hello to our guest today, Mr. Tim Ohai from Hawaii. Hello, how are you? I should be
Hey,
saying aloha,
aloha,
right?
aloha. Let's see. On my side
Aloha.
of the world, your side of the world, it's aloha po, good evening. And on my side of
Aloha
the world,
po.
it's aloha kakahiaka, which is good morning. So if you just say aloha, you got it covered.
Haka hikiaka. I don't know if I can do that.
There's only a few letters in the whole alphabet, and people still struggle over putting them together.
It's so
Yeah,
true. Is it true? Let's see if I remember this from my old days. The state fish of Hawaii is the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a. Is that
perfect,
close? Is that
perfect.
right?
Yeah, humu humu nuku nuku apua. It's the pig that snorts like, or the fish that snorts like a pig.
There you
Yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh wow. So it's morning your time, evening over here in London. And what's it like? Just make us all very jealous as our commuters are going home today.
Well, especially for those of you in the UK, we have completely crystal blue skies.
Mm.
Trees are bright green. The breeze is blowing, and the volcano is calm today,
Ah,
which means we don't
that's
have any
important.
fog. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I grew up here, so this is like, I love to go up there and see Tutu Pele, show her stuff. And you can actually, believe it or not, you can drive up to the volcano, like it's a national park, and you can just sit there and you can walk out to the edge. And I've literally sat in front of a 1,000-foot plume of lava shooting straight into the air and just sat there like you would sit and watch a sunset. It's just magical.
Absolutely amazing. And what part of Hawaii are you in?
So this is the island of Hawaii. People call it the Big Island. An
Yeah.
older name is the Moku o Keawe, just some random. There's a brand new show coming out on Apple TV called Chief of War with Jason Momoa, and
Oh,
it's
really?
this island. It starts here where Kamehameha the Great, the king, and that whole story was from this island, and he conquered this island, and then he became king of Hawaii Island, conquered the
Uh-huh.
rest of the islands, came and extended the nation to Hawaii, and then the whole thing became the state of Hawaii. So it's all named after
Wow.
this one island.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well, you're
trivia,
so very
trivia.
fortunate.
Yeah,
So
if you're driving and you're already like, man, this more than I ever thought I was going to get on a podcast.
on a
Um,
podcast from
yeah,
London.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
We can smell the sea air. So there we go. It's quite
Yeah,
different, I'm sure, than over here.
yeah.
But listen, so today's all about you, and I can't wait to share your expertise with our listeners. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing and what your career is?
Yeah, so it's a mystery. Even my friends and family here don't really know exactly what I do. I grew up here, and I'm this kid from a village in Hawaii, Kailua Kona, if you've ever been there.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we had one stoplight. It was just one of those kind of places. And then I wound up, long story short, going into corporate decades ago.
Mhm.
Found myself in a global role working for Shell, so I have plenty of time hanging out in London.
Mhm.
And then wound up going out on my own, did that for a long time. One stint back into corporate in Silicon Valley, and basically ejected just after some other life changes.
Mhm.
Most we'll go there now. My wife died of leukemia. So anybody who's ever walked the cancer journey,
Yeah,
when I say cancer sucks, you know exactly what I mean.
exactly.
And I just reevaluated everything, and I'm like, I'm done. So
Yeah.
I moved back to Hawaii, went back into consulting for myself, and I live here. But thank God for COVID because it made Zooms and all this other stuff
Oh,
normal.
right.
So it's so
Exactly.
easy to support people if you just navigate the time difference to support them and help them figure out essentially the biggest thing I work on is high performance execution. So how do we
Yeah.
get our strategies thriving? Because most organizations are struggling dramatically. It leads to massive amounts of waste and dysfunction, but it also burns people out like
Yeah.
crazy. And so I get a lot of leaders who are exhausted, a lot of
Mhm.
leaders who are stuck. They feel like they've plateaued. They need a breakthrough. How do we figure that out? So we do one-to-one coaching. I'll do leadership offsites. I'll do even training because we have a whole best practice model that actually
Mhm.
identifies that, yeah, it would be nice to make you feel good, but it would also be nice to work smarter. And that's
Yes.
that's that's the whole thing. Let's work smarter, not harder, because
Yeah.
essentially since COVID, that's been the theme. Everybody's been told to do more with less.
To do more with less. And you hear that so much and see it so much, and you see all of these layoffs. You have so many people worldwide losing
Oh,
their
it's
jobs,
brutal.
etc. But the people who remain, where's the focus to support them and actually say, all right, wait a minute, what about you in your life? Now you're going to have to do three people's jobs. And for some reason, corporate's just fine with that. No pay increases or very minimal at most, but just do it. It's kind of like personal change. Just go ahead, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, the hardest part is and I have a lot of empathy because I've been in the room when the decisions are being made, and most of these people are trying to do the best they can, but they
Mhm.
have massive
Yeah.
blind spots, and they're so caught up in the grind of the machine that
Yeah.
they don't think differently. And as you and I have come to know each other, right,
Mhm.
what they were taught, especially around change, is wrong. It's
Yeah.
great. It's this big, wonderful, isn't it great? Don't you all want to do what will make the company richer? And we're like, no, no, not
Yeah.
at all. That's the last thing I
What
want to
about
do
me?
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
What about my family and
Exactly.
my life? I'm so glad I made you XYZ billions of dollars this year. And how much was your bonus? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, and I have to give a shout out. Juan Elias. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Ah,
Forgive me.
yeah. Yeah, Juan Ignacio. Juan
Juan,
Ignacio
Juan.
Elias.
He connected us together. 'Cause I reached out to him. He was on the podcast show earlier as well too, and what a gem! I mean, such strategy and such know-how for just go to market and leadership. He actually said, one of the best people you need to meet is Tim, and that
Oh
brought
my
you and
gosh.
I together. So you and I started
Juan's
to
an
have
awesome
phone
guy.
calls. Yes, yes, and thank
Yeah.
you to him. I'm sure he's
And
listening
by
as
the
well.
way, being from Argentina, he's an amazing chef.
Oh,
Some of the
didn't know
best
that.
steak you're going to get is going to be at Juan's house with a delicious red wine. Just saying.
Well, I am sensing a nice gathering in Hawaii with one there.
There we go.
And
There we go.
we'll just make the best of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, listen, you have so much experience and you've lived through so many different things as many people have. But you've been able to really rise to the occasion and not just champion your own life, but also to help other organizations and people find their own ways through these tough times, as you've rightly said, through leadership. But that takes a different perspective on leadership. And I wonder, what is your view of leadership and how do you lead for yourself?
Yeah, it's how do I say this? Everybody everybody wants to be a better leader. Everybody wants to figure this thing out.
Hmm.
And if it could be figured out, there'd be a book and we would all buy that book.
Hmm.
It's not an easy topic, right? There would be
It's
one
true.
book on leadership we would all own because we all
There,
go,
there isn't.
that's it
Yeah.
in a box. So I'm going to give you my snapshot through a soda straw. It's
Oh, I
this is
like that.
what I think, and it's essentially leadership is the art and science of making others special. So how do
Oh,
you
I
build
love
the
that.
people around you up to get their best out? Because we're learning over and over again that I was just listening to a podcast with the Nobel Prize winning economist and psychologist Daniel Kahneman, and he's phenomenal. But he was asked, like, you know so much about making great decisions and what affects great decision making. Are you any better? And he goes, no, not at all.
Mm,
Not at all. Guy's won a Nobel Prize, and he
yeah.
still's like, nope, I'm still the victim of my own biases and my own thoughts. So What he went on to say was collectively,
Hmm.
that's where he had his hope.
Yeah.
His hope was people coming together and through diversity of thought and through challenging each other and figuring out and aspiring collectively,
Yeah.
leadership has tremendous impact. And it took a long time for me to learn it's not about being special, it's about making others special. Because you
Yeah.
think, I remember the first time I was formally made a leader, and I thought, okay, now it's time to shine. I got to do my best. I got to be courageous. I got to be inspiring. I got to be smart. I got to be, and all this other stuff. And what I was doing was I was injecting fear into every decision making or decision I
Of
was about to
course.
make. Right.
Of
I was like,
course. Yeah.
do not fail, do not get rejected, and do not, have create or generate any risk. And
What if,
I was
what if, what if?
generating my own set of weaknesses. And that's probably the most important part about leadership in all these situations. We're talking about companies making bad decisions around their own outcomes.
Hmm.
It's all fear-based. They don't
Yeah.
know it, but they're hijacked by their amygdala, the little tiny almond-shaped bits in the center of your brain that are designed for survival mode. Well, my friend, there's no wild animals chasing us,
Hmm.
on the tube in London. There's no wild
Well,
animals in the
well,
boardroom in
exactly.
San Francisco. And yet
Yeah.
we act as if we do the wrong thing, everything ends. And it's
Hmm.
just not true.
You're so right. And I can identify with that because I remember when creating Scared So What, people looked at me and they said, well, don't you have it all figured out? The answer is no. I'm a human being. I may
Yeah.
have created this, but it's another thing. Do I practice it? Now ask me that question. Do I practice it? And the answer is, yeah. My partner, when I have my own stress moments, he'll go, hey, Grant, you made the model, use it. And you know what? It's at that moment that I wake up and go, you're right. Okay, now how do I take control? And leadership isn't any different. It's a skill set that we can learn and we can aspire to continually collaborate and grow, but we have to continue to practice it each and every day. And I don't think that that's ever going to stop. And,
Mm.
as long as we are able to live and breathe, we're learning and we're experiencing change, and therefore our leadership will continue to evolve as well too. Hopefully,
Well,
if people are cognizant about it.
and this is where that social dynamic of leadership is so important because even at home, and anyone who has a partner at their home knows how important that person is to give you balance, to give you
Yeah.
that we'll call it that ego check, that
Mhm.
like timeout, drink your own champagne, my friend, and
Exactly. You made the
that
model, use it.
that is the right. That's the critical piece, and so many leaders are afraid to be transparent.
Yeah.
So many leaders are because we've been taught you have to be the special one now.
Yes.
Everyone's watching you and da da da. Da. I'm like, we're doing this wrong because when we
Mm.
do that, we're just feeding our fear, which then makes us even more fear based in our decision making.
It's so true. It's so true. And that's exactly, you're so right. You started this out with if there should be one book on leadership. So at least we have a common practice and a base of where to work from. And maybe
Yeah.
you and I need to get together and write that. Because I had the same thing happen within change management. I saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books on organizational change management and leadership. The same when I got into the doctorate, the leadership was no different. But then how do you find one guidance principle that says, wait a minute, if we could actually take this fear, learn how to embrace it. Now there's a
Hmm.
lot.
Hmm.
Learn how to embrace it, which means you have to actually face your fears,
Hmm.
learn how to critically reflect on what you're experiencing. Then could you actually, instead of making an assumptive decision, could you actually make an information-based decision? And the answer is yes. If you could learn how to ride a bike, walk, run, do whatever, drive a car, it's a cognitive skill set. Just like leadership, you can learn that. But boy, there's so many examples of what not to do.
Well, and becomes so the full concept I'm alluding to, I call the ego fear loop, and
Mhm.
it's actually biological. It's not just behavioral. So we all
Tell
have
us more
three core
about that.
drives.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
have three core drives. We all want to be good at what we do. That's called competence. We all want to have great social relationships. That's called connection. And then we wanted the freedom to make decisions on our own. That's called autonomy.
Yeah.
And those are universal. I've been on every continent, and I've seen that play itself out over and over again. And it's been that way for time immemorial. And how we're raised, the culture we're in, the the junk our parents are dealing with
Yeah.
gets passed to us, and we feel good when we're doing good work. We feel love when we're connected, and we certainly love to say no. I don't want ice cream now. Well, do you want vanilla or chocolate? Oh, vanilla, please.
Hmm.
When we're little kids and exerting that will. That gets distorted by everything around us says, okay, you can't just be good, you have to be great. You have to
Yeah.
be special. You got to be the best. So we take that drive for competence and we turn it into a drive for success. And then the same thing happens. We take that drive for social connection and we turn that into significance. We have to be the center of the attention. We have to be the one on stage getting the award. We have to be the one that everyone turns to when you walk in the room. And the same thing then happens, unfortunately, to our autonomy.
Hmm.
We become addicted to control.
Yeah.
Everything, everything must be so that you avoid. And then what happens is the brain naturally takes these things, feeds it dopamine, right? So we get these dopamine hits, and the neural connections in our brain go from the prefrontal cortex, where we love to be who we are and personality, problem solving, all these other things. And then we reinforce the connections, unfortunately, to the amygdala. So now
Yeah.
we've attached to the fear base and the ego. This is universal. The ego creates the fear because we're not born with these fears. We're not
Yeah.
afraid to fail when we're little. We're not
They're
afraid to be
learned.
rejected.
Yeah.
We're all learned behaviors, but they're reinforced through these neural pathways. And
Hmm.
then we get caught in the loop because the dopamine fuel reinforces that neural connection that says, I have to do what I do so that I'm not just not a failure, but I'm successful. I'm not just not rejected, I am significant. And I'm not just not in risk or out of control. I have full control of everything. And it turns us into monsters,
Yeah.
literally.
Well, and these are the
I
lived
yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
We live this, and how many countless teachers, supervisors,
Oh
religious leaders,
gosh.
etc., whatever, push you down and say that's the same thing with fear, with change and fear.
That's right.
We're
Well, they're
taught
all
that we
operating
can't
out of
do
the ego
this.
fear loop when they're doing
Yeah.
it. So they're just
Yeah.
they're just transferring that energy to you. And so it's
Hmm.
not as simple as, hey, I need to, just read a book and I'll be different. It's not just a
Yeah.
self-awareness thing. It's literally a mindfulness discipline to change the neural pathways in your brain. And that's neuroplasticity. It can happen, but it
Hmm.
doesn't just happen because, I read a book.
Yeah. You have to actually learn it, absorb it, practice it, and make it part of your. But since I mentioned books as well too, the ego fear loop. This is incredible. You've written some books, haven't you?
I've written some books that was almost all sales related. That's how I got into the strategic execution thing was because I was helping organizations drive their revenue engines and
Yeah.
kept finding that the problem wasn't sellers doing their job, it was upstream. It was the
Yeah.
executives doing what they're supposed to do to provide what's needed so that the sales strategy could execute. So for the last, oh gosh, 15 years. Oof. For 15 years, I've been on this journey of strategic execution. I decided to go all in because
Yeah.
it's literally the biggest blind spot. Most leaders, Grant, I bet you if you just asked a random leader anytime, anywhere, were you ever taught how to execute strategy?
No.
Vast majority would
Exactly.
say no. They would say,
Well,
well, I know how to do strategic planning. Yes, but that's not
yeah.
the execution of strategy, unless you're a veteran. The
Yeah.
veterans were taught something, and
Yeah.
what they're taught is actually very, very effective, but doesn't always translate well into civilian life, into corporate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. I was doing a keynote speech a couple of weeks ago at Chief Revenue Officer, and opened it up. And I just wanted to get a poise of the audience, which is all C-suite leaders, right? Revenue, sales, marketing, etc. Brilliant group, amazing energy and passion. And you could see that the desire to lead and the desire also for knowledge was there to grow. So I opened up the conversation. I said, how many of you have been taught how to lead transformations? Because that's the key buzzword everywhere, right? And of all the
Mm,
hands, maybe two went up. And I went,
mm,
really? And I questioned them and smiled, and they're like, hands went back down. Because think about it, true transformation within work, within lives and business, etc. And then I asked them, I said, and how many, raise your hand, have you ever been taught how to manage personal change for yourself? None.
yeah,
But yet you're all leaders. And it all
yeah,
follows into exactly what you're saying here. We have this viewpoint of I've got the job, I've got the title, and therefore I am just through, being bestowed in the position that I'm at. It doesn't mean you're a leader. And actually, it can mean very much the damaging, the opposite, if you don't realize what you're doing because you might burn through your people really quickly, which is what while we open this, people are being burned out.
It's a global pandemic, and I mean, I shudder when I think about the times that I screwed up. I think about the times that I have completely messed up around either pressing on people too hard
Yeah,
or not pressing on them hard enough.
sure.
And you're in this delicate balance of how do I get this stuff done, because you really don't have a plan B. You really don't know what to do if they don't do it, unless you yourself are going to get it. And this is where you get into the burnout, especially for senior execs, because if they can't do it based on what you've essentially ordered them to do, then
Where
you're
do you
going
go
to go do
next?
it yourself, and you're not going to have any time for your life, for your family, for your
No
friends.
support.
You're not
And
sleeping well. You're probably drinking too much. You're probably
and the
on all
brand
this other
president's
stuff.
still going to be pushing you. Yeah, exactly.
And you're still like, and you have an amazing year. Let's say stick with sales for a moment. Let's say you're sales leader of the year in 2022.
Hmm.
So that was 2020. No one cares.
Enjoy that moment.
No one cares. Good for
Exactly.
you, right?
Gone.
So do it again this year.
Yeah.
And it's a hamster wheel. We're just literally spinning this thing around and around, and there's no way to really change it. So I am working on the new book. The new
Oh,
book will
good.
be
Good, good,
about
good.
playing with the working title. The one I've got right now is the Zen of strategic execution, or the Zen of high performance execution. And I want to
Mhm.
really simplify it and talk about how do we create environments where we know great decision making is happening and manage the bit that's going on in our head and our hearts at the same time.
Mm.
So
Ooh, I love
well,
that.
stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Well, let me know if you would invite a guest chapter author. Mm. No, nobody in mind.
Nobody. No, no, you don't have any
Exactly. No one in
recommendations.
mind. But
Thanks
I
for
think we
sharing.
could definitely complement that. Well, listen, everything we're talking about here, leadership, practice, what's going on in the world today, there is an exuberant amount of change that comes through that. And I want to find out from your perspective, how does personal change come into play with your leadership and your experience and what you do right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's go back, building off that ego fear loop thing. So when I work with folks, the first thing we have to do is we have to find a way to raise awareness of when they're negative or critical. Because the moment we're negative or critical is when our amygdala has entered the conversation. And we don't know that. We actually, it's crazy when you think about the self-talk, and we'll, God bless our mums, but we'll give our mums some pretty good grief because we can hear their voices in our heads and da 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 da, and it's critical
Still
and
do
it's
every day.
negative. Yeah. And as I learned to say in Texas, bless their hearts.
Oh,
They
I
don't.
know that. I'm from Kansas.
There you
You're
go.
just
There
you're
you
just
go.
down the street. Bless their little heart.
Bless their hearts. We don't really mean that, but at the same
Exactly.
time, it's if you don't have that self-awareness, you can't change.
Yeah. True.
So it's that negative critical thing that's either coming in your head toward yourself, or
Hmm.
it's coming in your head towards others. And you're trying to essentially do everything you can to avoid saying it to yourself, because it's not my fault, it must be theirs. And so we've
Yeah.
become very good at shame and blame. And those things become the foundation. If we can't raise our awareness of when we're in that state, we can't
Yeah.
change. And it's not about avoiding the state altogether. You can shrink it, but it's about recovery. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm being negative. Oh my gosh, I'm being critical. Okay, whew, catch a breath, in through the
Yeah.
nose, out through the mouth, hit the vagus nerve, all this other biological stuff that we're now learning
Yeah.
actually really matters. And you
Yeah.
can suddenly change your response, and now you can get things back on track. So when I say
Yeah.
personal change, it starts with self-awareness. And then the other big one is just from what to what. Most
Hmm.
of us don't have good clarity about what the to what means.
Yeah.
And like, I know I don't want to be where I'm at. Okay, well, let's pause. Where are you at?
Hmm.
And where could be, and what is 1 to 2 things you could do just to move in that direction. So
You're
getting in
so
that
right.
direction is so critical, and that's why I love your scared so what framework, because it
Hmm.
gives you literally steps to become very self-aware,
Yeah.
and then to go from what to what.
Well, that's exactly what you're saying. And you know what? The funny thing is it was by accident that I created and added on the so what. I thought I was just scared. Because literally in the class in the master's program, when that happened, I thought I was going to fail the class. It was on module 4 of the leading sales transformation masters here with Middlesex. And while all the other cohorts, now mind you, this was executives, senior
Yeah.
SVPs of sales, business, global,
Hmm.
la la. And here I was,
Hmm.
the junior one and the only American in the class. And I just thought, I don't get this. Are you wanting me to use organizational change and force this on all of my salespeople worldwide? And can't do that. So I raised my hand and I asked my professor, I said, hey, can you accept change? Yes. And I said, can you reject change? And he said, of course. And I said, then how come none of the organizational change models you just taught us incorporate that? And it got quiet. We all looked, and my cohort members were all like, "Ugh." I looked at them and kind of smiled. Not so stupid, am I now? Hmm. What are you going to do about it? Exactly. But it's that. It's that. So we talked about, he's like, what, are you scared? And I went, yes, I'm absolutely scared right now. I'm going to fail this class. And he's like, but through coaching, what's that transformational leadership we talk about, right? Through that openness, through that vulnerability, through that coaching mechanism, he very easily, I was talking with them, members today about this, he very easily could have said, this is the models, these are the methodologies, this is what we taught you. Find your project somewhere within this and go forward. But he didn't. He said, well, maybe you want to create the first personal change model that's bespoke and incorporates all of that. I was like, oh, you're giving me a challenge? Game on. So we did. But to your point, he kept coming back and going, well, so what? So what?
Hmm.
So what
Hmm.
does it mean? So what can you do? Exactly what you're saying, from this to what, etc. And that's where I was like, well, how do we play with that? Because you don't see that in organizational change. By then, the consultants are done. They've handed in their invoices already. HR's already checked out, and the brand president is gone. SVPs are all like, well, we've moved into the new state. If you follow Kurt Lewin, we've already frozen. We refroze. We're done. But that doesn't work for employees. We're all stuck in, well, what does this mean to me? In
Yeah,
essence, so what? And that's where what I think you're strongly articulating for is critical reflection. And if you can start to learn to take control of that from yourself and get out of that fear and actually think for yourself, then ask yourself, so what? What's next?
that's right. That's right. And more importantly, become comfortable with that.
Yes, yes.
It's honestly, I used to think it was scary stuff, but now it's like, oh my gosh, this is like getting in a hot tub. It's comfortable, it's warm. I'm going to sit here for a little while and bring me something to drink, right?
You know
I
what? You're so right. It's where you
Yeah,
can ideate. I love if you can
absolutely.
find yourself in a comfort place, give yourself that permission to go, okay, well, this is scary. And what? What can I do about it? Then all of a sudden you can start to come up with ideas that maybe you never even considered. As long as you're starting to let go of that fear, right? Too many people succumb to that fear, and that's where we get dangerous. But wow, so exciting. I love this as well. And I can't wait to share your work as well with our listeners and keep seeing what you're doing. But I want to go beyond personal change at work because we talk a lot about
Mm.
work, and leaders, etc. But what would you say the importance of personal change or coaching or leadership is beyond work? Because we're not at work all of our lives. Does it have a place in our personal lives?
Yeah, I'll go back to the opening topic around leadership, right? So leadership isn't just something we're paid to do. Leadership is something we bring to our society. And
Hmm.
if my goal as a member of this group is to help make it better,
Hmm.
I got to recognize that the easiest thing I can do is my presence that I bring has to shift from success, significance, and control into what I call confidence, acceptance, and trust. So now
Confidence.
let's break that down for a moment. So instead of success and failure, let's take that natural drive to be good at something and just make it into confidence. Am
Yeah.
I doing my best? Whether I succeed or fail, because my best
Hmm.
is all I can do, and make
Yeah.
peace with that. And then instead of being significant or afraid of being rejected, let's take that social connection and let's turn that into acceptance. Do I accept myself just as I am, warts and all? And can I extend that to you? Can I
Hmm.
accept you just as you
Hmm.
are? And that it's a foundation of love. And then on the other end, instead of trying to control everything and being afraid of risk all the time,
Yeah.
can I take that drive for autonomy and turn it into trust? I will trust the journey. I have what it takes to learn from this journey, survive. I'm looking back at the stuff I've gone through. I've made it this far. Why would I suddenly
Hmm.
stop doing that? Why would I
Yeah.
suddenly not be able to keep on going? So rather than trying to eliminate and put bumpers on every possible diversion. Let's just enjoy the ride. Let's trust the
Yeah.
journey because the journey is the teacher. And if I do that personally, now when I'm in traffic and someone cuts me off, instead of responding in my not so nice way, let's respond with
You would
confidence,
never
acceptance,
do
and
that.
trust. Oh, brah,
Road
I have my
rage?
moments. I have my moments. I've had to learn how to talk about drinking your own champagne, like put my hand on my chest, like, okay, all right,
Uh-huh.
take some breaths before I
Positive
respond.
leadership here
Right?
today.
Yeah, yeah. But what that does is when you go in a grocery store, and we call it in Hawaii, we just simplify it. We just call it spread aloha.
Yeah.
When you smile at a stranger, and when you allow someone to cut in front of you and just say, hey, I'll just stop my car and slow it down so you can go in. And you
Hmm.
do those little tiny things. And then you give them a little shaka, you give them a little,
Yes.
pinky and thumb. And you're like, hey, go for it. And people then wave back. And that's, that's
Yeah.
when people are getting out of their amygdala and out of survival mode and into serving mode. And when we can get
Yes.
into serving mode, that's where we start saying the best version of ourselves.
Mhm. And it's true. And I know you live that value. We've had great conversations, you and I have. And for my listeners who probably don't know this, but I mean, I actually, as I shared with you, worked in Hawaii for 3 years on ships. And what you're saying is so infectious with the locals. They do smile, they say aloha, they give the shaka, they just positive, they exude positivity. And I remember every time I would come back to the mainland from a contract, smiling, aloha, waving to
Yeah.
everybody, people are like, who the hell are you? Have you lost your mind?
Oh
Why
my
would you be
gosh.
nice to people? And I'm like, because it's easier. And it's infectious. It makes such a great movement forward. But you're right. It's about positivity and attitude.
Yeah.
You,
And we're
uh,
actually told to give it. So we're
yeah,
taught you give it first. You don't wait
yeah,
for it to come to you. And that's
yeah,
hard to do because we're
yeah,
all somewhat conditioned. We
yeah,
want to see how you act first before. It's like, no, no, I'm going to give it first because that's how the
mhm,
connection will start. And so there's this
yeah.
beautiful word in Hawaiian called lo'okahi. And lo'okahi speaks to harmony and flow and balance. But it's really the image is this. There's this energy called mana that is keeps everything alive.
Mhm,
And if we as humans don't participate in that flow, if we're not there to contribute to that flow, things
mhm.
die.
So
You, you,
true.
you your fishing ponds and hunting grounds are going to dry up. Your water, their freshwater flow is going to dry up. It's just not going to be good. So we
Yes.
take it as a literally a spiritual responsibility here in Hawaii to give first, and
Hmm.
then you don't take, you receive. Now we're into
Yeah.
another word, pana'i, and the idea of you give and receive, you never take. Taking is a violent thing.
Yeah.
So
That makes
if you
sense.
choose not to give back,
Hmm.
it's okay. It's okay.
And I
It's
lo-
not your
and
day.
I love that too. If so many people are thinking about themselves and they're looking to receive, the lesson here is you have to give first, and
That's
that's okay.
exactly right. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you don't, I'll go so far as to say my older sister taught me this in her journey to recovery, that if you don't know how to receive, you truly don't know how to give.
That's so true. I agree. Yeah. Very, very powerful. Well, listen, we have come up to the end of our time for today, but I want to ask you the final question that I ask every one of my guests. What is one thing of advice you'd like to give out to people about change, about coaching, leadership, or just life, especially life from Hawaii?
It's really simple. Learn how to make peace with it.
Yeah.
Um, when my wife died of leukemia, my world was destroyed. The
Yeah.
world of my children was destroyed. They lost their mom. I mean, it was just the most brutal, brutal thing. And I could have used that to make me bitter, but I used it to make me
Mhm.
better because I
Yeah.
learned how to make peace with it.
And that's so powerful. Tim, I've had so many people say, let it go, just let it go, learn to let it go. And that's a little bit different because that's almost court, right? And that's almost saying like you have to finalize something, but learn to make peace with it. That's
Yeah,
different. That's
it's
different.
very different. And I'm not saying ignore it. I'm
Yeah.
saying um,
Actually
every
acknowledge it.
everybody, everybody has their story. Why
Yeah.
are you any different? Why are you suddenly immune from having to go through? Um, I want to say you can bleep me out later. Shit.
It's all right. Yeah. This
Right.
stuff happens.
Everybody has shit. Everybody does. And
Hmm.
some of us are better at handling it than others, but everybody's got their stuff. And make peace with that.
Yes.
And then ask, what's the most positive outcome I can now achieve? So
Mm.
this happened. It's ruined whatever I thought was going to happen. But now, what is the most positive outcome I can get out of this experience? Use that as fuel to take you forward, and you
Yes.
will move in a direction you probably never intended to go. But trust me, my friend, the journey is beautiful.
I love it. I hope you will come back again. We have so much more to continue to share. I've
Thank
learned
you
so
so
much from you
much.
today. I want to talk more about the ego and fear loop. I also love what you said as leaders, it's the art and science of making others special. I just thought that was powerful. It's not about you, but it's about the effect that you leave in the world, right? The mark you make and learning to make peace with it. Powerful. Thank you so much. It's a joy to have you here with us. And for all of our listeners, if you want to learn more about Tim or to connect with him, please follow along on LinkedIn or his website. I'm going to put those here in the bio, but just make sure you connect. This guy has so much to share, and he's very busy, but he is willing to connect with you. Tim, any last words?
No, it's just been a joy. Grant, I appreciate what you're doing. I when you first explained to me your aha moment in university and studies around how change was being essentially ignored, the dynamic of personal change and the personal's role, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. I'm so glad you're taking this not only to corporate but to just government and everywhere, because right now the world needs to understand how to change in a healthy way.
Yeah. Thank you. And that is my life's mission now, is to get this out to people so that we can actually teach people. Because you know what? I've seen too many people who learn this and transform their own lives. That's powerful. So it's got to go and spread. So thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Ah, hey man, Iki, it's a small thing.
All right. Well, listen, we'll see you soon. And thanks for everybody for listening. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us here on the Scared So What podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Van Ulbrich. If you found any of this information insightful, well, give us a like and follow along. Make sure that you tune in each week for more episodes as we talk further about what is personal change, how do you manage it with Scared So what about coaching, and also leadership, and how all three of these tie together. If you'd like to learn more, then go to our website at www.scaredsowhat.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope that you come back soon.